Hi and welcome to another J Talks Cars. In this video I'm going to be talking about why you should consider maybe buying an Audi A4 B6 or B7 as they're similar chassis and similar platforms, the comparisons, the tunability and what you can do for practicality in terms of costs, in terms of maybe basic running costs, and what how they can maybe enrich your day-to-day road use. As you know, today's cars are mostly being developed around going green and what have you, but not everybody can afford buying a new car and running a new car, and it sometimes works out more financially beneficial to actually keep your old car or run an older car, especially for something from between, I want to say 95 through till 2014 type model, because they were built to last, and they still, you can still get a lot of parts, you can still maintain them, and the running costs are not ridiculous. I try to be as concise and provide the right sort of information. Some bits I will probably forget because I'm going off the best of my knowledge with my 20 odd years of experience, and as well I used to work for VAG, not just as a site driver but within parts and just general different jobs within different dealerships. So I hope I'm of some use, and I hope that perhaps I'm maybe help you with some questions, and yeah. Okay, so a lot of this that I'm going to be discussing today is based on experience. I've had my Audi A4 B6 Avant now for getting on towards nearly 8 years, and I've spent a lot of money getting it right. The reason being for this has been down to previous owners' neglect. Now, a lot of people who have bought anything VAG, whether that be Volkswagen, Audi, Seat or Skoda, have the mentality of, oh, well, it's built by Volkswagen, or it's got something to do with Volkswagen, it's on a similar platform, it's going to be bulletproof, and the problems that don't exist, they're just little niggles and whatever. There are people that buy them and then just think that they're that bulletproof that they're never going to need to take it to a garage ever, which is ridiculous. But that is a conception that was, a misconception even, sorry, that was created because in that period when these cars were built, between 95 till about 2014, they were built to last. They were built to be quite robust. They were built to be very durable, especially the diesels as well. I mean, I have the PD 130 engine, and it is just, it's a dream. I mean, providing I keep on top of the services and yeah, just maintain the car, which is a basic rule with any car ownership, the car is pretty solid. So the note I want to make on this is, a lot of people just assume any German car, not just Audi, but any German car is bulletproof. They are, if you look after them. They won't repair themselves, they won't fix themselves. If you're doing 100,000 miles a year, then you are going to need to replace parts. You are going to need to make sure that the car is in a decent condition, for whatever you wish to use it for. And that's just, I mean, a lot of people watching this will see this. So the B6 and the B7, the B6 is the original A4. This follows on from the B5 platform, which was from what I believe 94 until 2000. They'd already created the underpinnings off the back of the Audi 80, I believe, which again was a fantastic and popular car as well. So they moved from the B5 to the B6, and it's more refined. And all they've done with the B6 chassis is just built upon the ideas that they developed from the B5. You know, it had pretty much all the mod cons and everything, and a lot of the tech in the Audis around that time were pretty much, you know, before their time as well. I mean, this is a 2004 model and it's got sat-nav in it, albeit the sat-nav you need a disc to use. I mean, obviously the later sat-nav systems were all either updated or memory cards, but this one has a sat-nav from 2004 still. I mean, a lot of the features in this car are still factory. I mean, I haven't upgraded any features in this car apart from put some blue lights and some mood lights in the car just to, you know, give it a bit more character at night. But yeah, the B6 is a very solid car. There were quite a few things that needed refining on it, i.e. the drain off points, because the B6s are known for the water leaking from the scuttle panel into the car, because the plenum bung was, you know, it would drain off the water, but it would easily get blocked, especially if you lived in a rural area and you parked it under a tree. I will be going in over future you know, content, basically saying what you need to do with these to maintain them, and what to look out for when buying one. So I'll be doing that in a future video. So, you know, with this, the problems they had were issues with the drain offs and the way around it was to remove the plenum bung entirely. So that's one issue, but that's one of the areas that later they refined in the facelift model, which was the B7. Also as well, you know, like key areas with the suspension, I believe from the B5 they started doing the independent suspension with the extra arms and everything. Again, it was a bit of a sore area because it's an area that takes a lot of force, and the way that it's developed and the way it's designed, you do constantly need to repair the top arms and maybe lower arms every so often, more the top arms if anything. In order to do that, you have to remove a pinch bolt, which after a year's driving it seizes up pretty much without you know, without breaking a sweat. Obviously the poor mechanic removing it is the one sweating. And I believe a lot of the suspension parts as well, cast alloy, you know, and aluminium, which obviously, as you know, as things warm up and obviously there's a constant force through there, they have a tendency to either seize or weld themselves together, which again was a little bit of a drawback with the design. But other than that, you know, they refined on what they originally did with the B5, and the B6 was more solid and robust, even with the little issues. We move on to the B7, and the B7 is just basically a facelift, and I think they upgraded the OBD reader, or the way that they worked with the diagnostics. Also as well, the electronic components, they refined how they were put in the vehicle and everything, and how they worked. So, you know, each model, the B6 started as the refinement platform for the B5. It was more of an upgrade, and then with the B7 it was just more of a facelift and more of a cosmetic upgrade and basic functionalities in it. in terms of the use of them, you know, they were mostly used by like your salesmen or your sales executives at the time, because they're just brilliant on the motorway. This is fantastic on the motorway. It just cruises along and it's just so comfortable, you know, and it's a lovely place to be. So, you know, they refined that and made the functionality of that better. So in terms of modifications and upgrade, with most VAG vehicles, a lot of parts are transferable. So, you know, from everything from Skoda to Seat to Audi to Volkswagen, you can transfer parts over. Obviously you have to check the part numbers, and if you want to keep things OEM. In terms of alloys, the PCDs are 5x100 and 5x112. The 5x112 is mostly Audi fitment, but again, you know, you can change how, you know, you've done the hub and the disc fitments as well. So everything is quite transferable between each platform. And you know, when modifying these cars, it tends to be more the norm to either go like really low, like lower the car so it's perhaps, you know, on its arse, or on bags or hydraulic suspension if you're not familiar with the term, or you go for the sleek line look as well. I mean, you'll find that a lot of aftermarket modifications are more in keeping with the Audi trend of sleekness, and streamlined along the lines of the car, the shape and the bodywork and everything. So, you know, in terms of modifications with these, you know, you can go for the more sleek look. I mean, I've gone for more you know, practical look, utilizing aero to create functionality instead of aesthetic. I mean, yes, aesthetically I want it to look good, but at the same time I want it to function as well. So there's so many different routes you can go down. It is quite an upgradable vehicle. I would recommend, if you've got a diesel, there's about 3 routes you can go with the diesel, especially the diesel variants. The PD engines are definitely the better diesel engines, if not the best diesel engines in my opinion, that Volkswagen Audi Group have ever developed and built. Like I said, this is a PD 130 PS, 96 kilowatt, superb engine. It's never let me down. Obviously you keep on top of the servicing and maintenance of it, and the car will look after you. That's, you know, pretty much how I would put it. But yeah, the diesels, if you got a VAG, I would recommend a diesel. I know, again, we're in a world where the world's meant to be going greener, but whilst diesels are still about, I would recommend enjoying them whilst they're still available and still around. Yes, the price in tax and maybe running, maybe on average costs more, but I mean, if I'm to tell you the truth, with the price of diesel going up, I'm still saving money in the long term compared to what I've been paying in the garage. So a lot of you will probably have seen that my recent garage bill came to nearly, well, it came over £1,000, and the car value, I mean, I bought this at trade, so the car value is 1,500. But what I've saved in fuel in that period has been more than that, because I only fuel this once every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. I put £30 in, which is roughly just under 20 litres, and you know, even with the distances that I travel, it doesn't cost me £1,000 a month. So you know, it's saved me money, and it's definitely been value for money, this vehicle, since I bought it 7 years ago. So you know, the diesels do offset the costs. Now if you bought a petrol variant, There's three engines. There's the 1.8 turbo, which you would find also in the Audi TTs, in the Mark 1 Audi TTs, and the A3 S3s. And also there's the 3-litre V6. Then there's also the 2.4 V8, which you will find in the S4 anyway, if you just want to be a bit more extravagant. In terms of all three engines, in terms of the petrol engines, which one would I choose? I would pick the V6 over the other two. The 1.8 still had a lot of teething problems in terms of its mechanicals. There was a lot of maintenance required with the 1.8 turbo. I mean, they are good engines, don't get me wrong. They are highly tunable. You can tune them up to something absolutely ludicrous, providing that, you know, you've reinforced the mechanicals of the engine. The V6 is more of, you know, it's that go between you know, casual driving and motorway driving. It's fantastic in terms of fuel consumption and practicality. So, you know, I mean, that's the better petrol engine in my opinion. And then the 2.4 V8, well, for one, it's a V8, it's a performance engine, and as well they're notorious for problems with the timing chain, especially the tensioners and the equipment, because they are known to fail. You know, in terms of, you know, mechanical reliability, you know, again, the 3-litre V6 is the better engine. So if you are to get an A4, B6 or B7 and you wanted it to be petrol, then I would recommend getting the 3-litre V6. Yes, again, the issue goes back to taxation and you know, the new laws, because obviously because of emissions and stuff like that, the bigger engines are more costly. But again, it's all about offsetting your budget and working out according to what's viable for yourself and your lifestyle. Those are the engine variants. I mean, as far as the diesels, there's the 105, which wasn't really popular as far as I'm aware. I think there's a 115. Again, there's not too many of them about. And then there's the 130, which was the more popular engine because it's, I don't know, I think it was the 130 brake at the time, because back then 130 brake, it was quite a lot of power. Now compared to other cars, it's not as much. But then we go into gearboxes as well. Now the manual gearbox mated up with all the engines still is a very solid, and I think they still use that system of gearbox right up until I think the early B9s. I could be wrong there, but I know that it was a popular gearbox system and it worked very, very well. Also as well, the automatic gearboxes. Now again, going back to previous content, I have a Multitronic 6-speed. They did do a 7-speed, which was later rebadged as the S-Tronic, and then they went up to the DSG because they refined the system. The Multitronic gearbox is a semi-automatic gearbox. You can drive both in sport, normal, auto, and also you could drive it in manual. Now, the difference with this sort of manual gearbox is there's no clutch pedal, so it is down to how you rev match. If you over rev at a certain point, it doesn't like that because the bearings are quite weak, and if you under rev, it doesn't let you change gear. I think you need to be at least over 1500 RPM before you're allowed to change gear anyway. In terms of fuel economy with these gearboxes, the Multitronic is actually more economical than the manual. You could argue it's down to how you drive, and you're right. But at the same time, the Multitronic basically prevents any external parameters. I mean, obviously, if you're being a bit more spirited with your acceleration and gear change, then you know you are going to hit a certain threshold within the revs, which will obviously compromise the fuel economy. But in terms of just driving it normally, 30 mile an hour, I mean, at 30 mile an hour in this, I'm getting 57 to the gallon at 30 mile an hour. You know, which compared to these newer cars, you're probably thinking, well, that's not brilliant. It's still 3 miles short. I mean, I think the average on some of these newer cars is about 60, if I'm correct. So, you know, 30 mile an hour, 57 to the gallon. 40, I'm just getting just over 50, obviously depending on how I'm driving it. And then obviously a bit more spirited, I'm getting between sort of 45 to 47, 48. Obviously since I've done the aero upgrades on the roof and the front and rear, my fuel economy has gone up because I'm cutting through the air with minimizing drag. That's working well for me. But yeah, those are the basic sort of areas I know. So let me take you around my car. As you know from previous vlogs, I've upgraded the side skirts on here. Just very simple, flat pane side skirts. The alloys are these are a bit tatty and they need refurbing, so I will be taking these off and refurbing, but these are from an Audi A8 and the centre caps are from an Audi TT. The front splitter is an aftermarket S4 front splitter, and as you can see, the dreaded bubble rust or the arch rust is starting to happen, so I'll be treating and redoing that at a later date. Obviously with an old car there are blemishes, but I now have my DRLs which are now working, and in terms of the shape of the car, it looks alright, looks the job. It needs tidying up in places. We do have this issue with this wing. This wing will be replaced and I will have a resprayed wing, so this will be sorted. The arch rust isn't so bad on this side, but I mean it is evident, but give it time, the wing will be replaced anyway. In terms of body trimming, the door mouldings are from an S-Line. The car is an SE, so I've upgraded the door mouldings to S-Line mouldings, just to keep the shape and just tie everything in aerodynamically with the car. This door, I'm going to be looking at getting the door repaired somehow. I'm not looking to replace the door, but I am looking to probably get it resprayed or something, just to get it tidied up so it doesn't look as bad. There are, you know, the obvious imperfections and stuff like that, but you know, this is what you get with these old cars. Obviously these have helped with stabilizing the airflow around the rear of the car on the motorways, so This is where all the aero that I've put on has actually served a purpose. It's not just been for cosmetics. So, but it does the job well. Same with these aero fins on the back. They have increased, you know, they have reduced my fuel consumption. So they've increased the airflow and directed it more along the top of the car. I will be tinting the windows, so please ignore that in my back window. It's just something to stop light from blinding me as I drive. These came with parking sensors as standard. Now, I didn't think parking sensors was a standard thing. Probably is an option, maybe. You probably noticed that I need to sort that out, which I will be doing at a later date. But yeah, I've got reverse and parking sensors, which I'm glad to have. In terms of the stance and shape, you can see that there is a little bit of camber on the back. I've lowered it 40mm, but I'm looking at putting wider wheels on and maybe fettling the suspension again. So cost-wise, they're relatively easy to maintain, and pricing is quite competitive, really. It's not stupidly expensive. Obviously, buying brand new parts is getting quite difficult here in the UK, especially with the older cars, because I believe Audi had stopped manufacturing and supplying parts for vehicles over 15 years just to make room for stock for newer cars, which is totally understandable. A lot of the parts are transferable between the platforms, between Volkswagen, Audi, Seat and Skoda. But, you know, in terms of cost cutting and just keeping your budget down, maintaining an old car, it is actually doable. It's realistic to do. Aftermarket parts, I mean, they're still reasonable good quality, if not just very similar. But also as well, you find that, you know, if you're after new parts or specific parts, it's best to order them directly from Germany. Yes, you have to pay import tax and stuff like that, but at least then if you're guaranteed, you know, the part that you need, and as well it'll be of durable quality. In terms of a lot of things that I've had to get for this car, recently a lot of parts I've been ordering have been from Europe, because sourcing certain parts have been difficult. But again, it's the general maintenance parts which are relatively easy and relatively affordable to get. You know, your servicing stuff, your timing belts and everything like that, they're all affordable and they're readily available here in the UK. Just more specific parts, so certain sensors, maybe certain elements, bodywork elements or stuff like that, specific elements in that respect, then I would source them from abroad. The difficult being is if you were getting specific body panels, there are suppliers here in the UK, but it's a case of getting them to you with good quality. So make sure you have a good body shop technician helping you out, because have a go mechanics or have a go body shop technicians, it's a bit of a red herring in a grey area. I'm happy with what I've got. I've got a solid car now and it's very cost effective. Yes, compare it to a newer car. Is it as cost effective? In some areas it isn't, in some areas it is. It all depends. In general maintenance, it's relatively good. In terms of, you know, specific parts, it can be quite costly, but it all depends on what you require. So such examples I've had have been specific sensors for the car, and as well just certain like bushes and bits and pieces which some reason some suppliers don't seem to stock, or they take forever to get in. They have to order from abroad and then you have to wait for months for them to get in. As a side note as well, if you're looking at getting one of these, the other options available are obviously the B7 format, but also the Seat Exeo. It's the same chassis and it's the same sort of running gear, same engines, especially when they upgraded to the later TDI engines, which were, I believe, timing chain. Also as well, I forgot to mention it earlier, the different various diesel engines. I've got the 1.9 engine, which is the 130 PD. There was a 105 or 115, but there's also a 2.5, which I believe is about 170 brake. And then there's a 3-litre V6, which again is a later diesel engine. I can't remember the exact date for that, but yeah, definitely a great engine. You would normally find the 3 litre V6 in the A6s predominantly, but they did put it in 1 or 2 S-Line variants, especially on the B7 platform. With the Seat Exhale, it's mostly the 2 litre TDI, which again was the earlier PD engine, which obviously was later refined and updated. So, you know, we've got quite a variety of engines, and it's very cost effective, and they're all cost effective, and they refine the cars as they went along. Why should you buy an Audi A4, B6, B7? Even at 20 years on, 15 to 20 years on, you're still saving money. So I would get another one tomorrow in a heartbeat, but the one I've got now, which is worth every penny. So all in all, you know, I've got a respectable car. Got something that I can show off. It's not a concourse car. It never will be. It's an old 20-year-old car. You know, there's more improvements due to come with the car. I intend on keeping this thing on the road, and hopefully, you know, providing laws, rules, taxations and costs are manageable, then you know, I'm able to drive something I enjoy, and just purely enjoy this car. Future content, I'll be looking to maybe catch up with other car vloggers or car content creators, and with you to maybe get some tips, maybe roast my car, or maybe them, you know, suggest ideas and ways of improving the vehicle. So yeah, if you want to see more content like this, please comment, like, subscribe, follow the channel. This is just a little sideline doing other than what I usually do. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao bien.
Lagging whilst gaming? Out of steam after a long day at work and you want to go out raving? Or just need something to get you through your grueling day? Dubby Energy, a healthier alternative to the off-the-shelf brands. Dubby is packed full of the important aminos and vitamins that canned energy drinks don't provide. This product doesn't contain artificial additives, and is also sugar-free, maltodextrin and keto-free. One tub on average is cheaper than consuming 2 cans per day of the off-the-shelf brands. Order your Dubby Energy via their website at dubby.gg and use my promo code VaderMonkeyJ to get yourself 10% off your order. Keeping yourself energized doesn't have to be unhealthy.